Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video where today we return with round 3 of season 2 of the F1 22 Haas Road to Glory. Yes, we're back, this time out here at the Albert Park circuit from the Australian Grand Prix. The first couple of races of season 2 have certainly been interesting. We're still trying to work out exactly where we stand in the world of Formula 1, but yeah, safe to say Saudi Arabia was a whole lot better than the season opener back in Sakir. Of course, a massive thank you as well to all of you for the insane and continued support on the channel at the moment. At the time of recording, we're getting very, very close now to 90,000 subscribers. So if you're not already, please do make sure you get yourself subscribed as well for more Formula 1 related content. But plenty going on then behind the scenes here at Haas. 5 upgrades in the works at the moment. 2 on the durability, 2 on the aero, and 1 on the chassis. Should theoretically, when they've all gone on, bring us towards the top of the Formula 1 world there. Championship-wise, currently up into P5 overall there on 18 points. Sergio Perez leads Carlos Sainz at the front of the field. It really so far has been the year for the number 2 drivers there. As yeah, Perez ahead of Verstappen, Sainz ahead of Leclerc as well. But yeah, P3 overall in the Constructors' Championship as well. We've definitely now got a car that can fight for race victories and podiums. Albert Park as well should theoretically be a track that suits our car as well. So I say we just get into it then. Qualifying day here from Melbourne. Let's do it. Haas Road to Glory time. Formula 1 is finally back in 2022, and now you can rep your favourite teams. Of course, using the F1 store, every team now has merch lineups available, whether you're an Aston Martin fan, a Williams fan, Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull, the choice is completely up to you. But yeah, check out the F1 merch store down below for all the official releases from all of the teams. And of course, as always, if you use our links as well, you massively help support the channel. So yeah, give it a look and see if there's anything you like. We are then, Albert Park, ready for qualifying from the Australian Grand Prix, and apparently 2.5 minutes worth of electrical system faults to kickstart the session. Love that. Always helpful when you've only got one session to try and get the times in. Free practice was quite interesting though, trying to find the balance for the wings. We can run quite low and be an absolute missile down the straights like we were at Jeddah, but we are really, really struggling through a lot of the tighter, twistier parts of the lap. So 18.21 on the wings is what I'm sticking with at the moment. Whether it'll be good enough for pole position, we'll have to wait and see, but it only takes 1 lap. Right, well, by the time we've got all the technical gremlins out of the way, we've got just over 10 minutes left on the clock as we head round to start our first flying lap. Top times I feel like are going to be sort of high 16s around at the Albert Park circuit, so we'll wait and see what we can do on our first run. Of course, already taken 1 pole position this year. Would love to try and make it 2 around tracks that really suit our car. There is nice and tidy through the first couple of corners, heading down in towards turn 3, braking at the 100-metre ball. Must admit, I used to really like the old version of Albert Park, but they have really improved it now for racing as well, of course, and it does feel even more sort of on edge around a lot of the lap. This is by far and away though my favourite corner. Really try and get those front inside wheels over the curb in there, as then you just flat out throughout this next section of the circuit. Feels like a completely different track. Of course, as we head down towards the end of section 2, of course the track kind of opens up for you as you get prepared for the very, very fast chicane. They're down 2 gears on the way in. Car bottoms out over the curbs. Oh, you don't want to do that all too often there, and somehow kept the foot in down in towards the final sector of the lap, braking at the 50-metre ball there, really trying to drag the car in towards the apex, and then just a handful of corners to go there. Horrible line through the 3rd last turn, but yeah, down through this tricky, almost hairpin corner there. This final corner, I never feel like I can really get it right there, but we have maximised it pretty well that time. At the final corner, up towards the line, it is going to be a 17.4, puts us quicker than Kevin Magnussen, but only down in 8th. This car is temperamental, but there's definitely more pace. Right, well, a minute left on the clock, and so far we're about 3/10 away from the fastest time, so this is not over then, as we're around the final corners, about to start my final qualifying lap here from Albert Park. Make sure we don't slow down the AlphaTauri behind us too much, but also make sure that we don't give him too much of a helping slipstream. But let's wait and see then what we can do. Full attack mode here at Albert Park. Pole is not off the table just yet. unless someone else puts in an absolute worldie of a lap time. Pretty certain the fastest was a 17 flat. That is definitely not insurmountable as we head through turn 4. Once again, they're trying to avoid the curbing on the inside that time round, and then just through turn 5, they're just about flat. When you get it now, absolutely pray the car will stick. 5th gear through the next corner there. That was even tidier than the last time round. We're fast through sector 1 and sector 2. It was just sector 3 where we found ourselves losing time on our previous run, and we're purple once again through the first sector there, down towards the end of the middle sector. It's pretty much a nothing sector nowadays in Formula 1. Again, attack the curbs there, but the car stays a lot more planted through the first part, but definitely not through the second. Luckily, we were able to get on the throttle a little bit earlier, but now we really need to focus as we head down in towards the final few corners there. Just nick the grass in towards the final few turns of the lap, and that might be enough to cost us, as we're still going to try and see if we can find any more time on this lap there. That was a costly error at the same place Fernando Alonso made one last year. Of course, that was car failure though for Fernando. We are going to find a 10th and a half, but where is it going to push us up on the grid? P6 in the end. There could have been more. There could have been more. Well, I have never had that on the Formula 1 game, I don't think. We have tied with our teammate Kevin Magnussen there at the end of qualifying. 0.19 away for the pair of us there, and that's only good enough for 5th and 6th place on the grid. Carlos Sainz championship, currently he is leading the championship. No, he's P2, sorry, in the championship, isn't he? Behind Sergio Perez there, will line up on pole. Max Verstappen quicker than his Mexican teammate this weekend, but yeah, really, Ferrari, Red Bull, Haas, Lando Norris, Mercedes, it's all in the fight this weekend. This could get spicy. Let's get into it, Australian Grand Prix. This channel is proudly sponsored by Bybit, the official crypto partner of Red Bull's Formula 1 team. I've been using their platform for my personal crypto savings over the last few months, and when they got in touch to support the channel, I was super excited. Currently, they're offering you guys a special new promo for the first 100 of you to deposit $10 or more onto the platform. You'll get another $10 free. Also, 5 lucky winners will get their initial deposit doubled up to $1,000. That means if you deposited $1,000 onto the platform using my codes below, you could be within a chance to get another $1,000 completely free. We've seen the landscape around crypto drastically change over the last couple of years, and I genuinely believe it holds an important place in our future. However, please be careful as always when trading, as you are liable to lose money. But if you're interested and you're 18 or older, click the link down below to get started and see why Red Bull and myself, as well as thousands of others, trust Bybit as their crypto.
Hello and welcome from Melbourne, a track modified since we last raced here in Albert Park, and I think with the changes, it's going to be a classic. We're a stone's throw from the enormous Port Phillip Bay for today's race at the 3.28-mile Albert Park circuit. It's a bumpy racing surface here, and the 14 corners could prove especially difficult in the wet conditions. So watch out for a safety car at some point during this Grand Prix. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. An immense lap from Carlos Sainz yesterday puts him in pole position, edging out Max Verstappen, who'll start from P2. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Perez, Leclerc, Kevin Magnussen, Mr. Monaco, Norris, Russell, Hamilton and Pierre Gasly, Ocon, Albon, Yuki Tsunoda and Ricciardo, Bottas, Stroll, Sebastian Vettel and Mick Schumacher, Joe and Nicholas Latifi. It's almost time for those 5 red lights to go out then. Let's see who can prevail today. It's not going to be plain sailing for our drivers today, although with the sky falling as it is, perhaps sailing isn't too far from the truth. Natalie Pinkham, good to have you with us here today. Your thoughts?
It is a touch damp, isn't it? As a driver, there are 3 big things to worry about when racing in these conditions: standing water, tyre temperature and visibility. Judging distance to the cars around you is really tricky when you're driving through the vast amounts of spray that these wet weather Pirelli tyres kick up.
After the points finished last race, let's aim to keep that momentum going.
Right, well, here we are then on the grid, ready for the Australian GP, and looks like it is meant to be intermediates to dries by the end of this one, so things could get quite spicy, and maybe it's going to be a question of trying to look after the tyres. Their game basically believes you can do a whole race on a single set, but this Haas car, I don't know what it is, but I just don't feel like it's going to be particularly great on intermediate tyres there. It's very, very quick, but not very stable on F1 at 22 still. It's got a little bit more development to go before it's sort of a more well-rounded car. Of course, going to need that throughout the European leg coming up in this season, but we'll wait and see what we can do here today. Like I said, it might just be a case of trying to nurse the tyres early on. The last wet-to-dry race I did on F1 22, if you remember, the Dutch Grand Prix that went live on Tuesday in my team went pretty well, so who knows?
Forecasts suggest the rain's going to be lightening up over the next 10 to 15 minutes or so. You should start finding more grip as we clear the standing water.
Mark already suggesting that the rain could be going away quite quickly in this GP, so we might get a lot of running on the dry tyres. You just don't know. Right, heading out then of the final corner now. We desperately got to try and build some heat into these tyres. Do not crash with my teammate though, as we get ready to line up on the grid here at Albert Park. I think this would be pretty much Haas's best ever qualifying session, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it does match Canada from real life 2022, but we'll wait and see what we can do then. Hopefully we can try and get a good start here in these tricky, slippery conditions there. Sainz on the pole ahead of Verstappen, Perez and Leclerc there, and we have really taken the role of Mercedes as the third best team at the moment. But can we do what Mercedes can, actually win a race this year? 5 red lights on the grid here in Albert Park. Lights out and away we go. And trying to avoid the wheel spin as best as possible. There we're going to have a look to the outside of Kevin Magnussen as we head down towards turn 1 there. A couple of cars diving it up the inside through the first corner. We haven't lost, whoa, we haven't gained either, as the car trying to kick out in 5th and 6th gear there at the first couple of turns, down in towards turn 3. There goes Kevin Magnussen up the inside of 1, make it 2. Up the inside of Max Verstappen as well, he'll try, as will make it 2. Haas cars past Charles Leclerc at the start of this Grand Prix. Top 2 in the championship, top 2 in the Grand Prix there, but the wrong way round, as that has been a very, very good start then for both Haas cars. Here comes Charles Leclerc though, so we head down in towards the next corner, and George Russell is going to try and sneak by as well. We'll try and pin him to the apex there, but these are touch and go conditions at the start of this Grand Prix. They really do lull you into a false sense of security early on, as now we've got to try and use all the top end speed this Haas car comes packing with at the moment. Of course you saw I altered the front wing angle before we got into this one, as that was definitely too late on the brakes, and that's going to put me really out of shape at the hairpin. But George Russell does the same behind me, so we are going to drop back a little bit from the front runners there. But Kevin Magnussen up into a brilliant P4 then at the start of this Grand Prix. George Russell, Lando Norris going side by side behind us. I think we've got 4 Brits in a row on the grid for this one. I think we're all still fighting together there as Charles Leclerc immediately back behind Kevin Magnussen, but it might take us a couple of laps just to get used to this, as this Haas car, yeah, does not like the rain. Max Verstappen 29.4, new fast lap of the day. We set 30.5. We're only 3 laps in here, but I'm already starting to feel a bit like Giancarlo Fisichella, that famous radio message. Whoa! Saying he's 2 seconds a lap slower than Fernando. He's just got to work harder and push the car more. We are definitely getting into a rhythm, but it is not easy in this Haas. It does not operate well in the rain. That's exactly what we want to hear. Rain meant to be getting lighter over the next 10-15 minutes, and still do not want to hit that curb. But yeah, I'm kind of hoping the rain can last to, well, either as little as possible, or just after everyone else commits to a fresh set of intermediates there, as that was ragged and it'll find a couple of turns. As long as we can keep the Mercs at bay, that's probably got to be the goal at the moment. But yeah, the gap isn't going up much to the cars in front, but it is definitely not coming down either. There's just any little squirt of throttle, the back end goes, hey, I'm going to overtake the front. I think Kevin Magnussen might be in a similar world of hurt to us at the moment, because the gap to the Red Bulls and Sainz is still going up at the front of the field, but the gap to Kevin Magnussen and Charles Leclerc is even starting just to come marginally the right way for us at the moment, as we're just starting to learn what you can and can't do around this venue at the moment. Lap 5 of 29. Of course, such a high-speed circuit now. Grand Prix around here really do fly by, in fact. Very, very sort of weird to get used to, but don't run wide, don't be too aggressive with the curbs. It's basic sort of almost go-karting stuff you've got to remember in the rain, but of course avoiding the white lines around here is quite difficult when you think it's just an ordinary road. In fact, an ordinary road that I've been around in real life. Fun fact for the day. Well, I'm sure I mention every time we come here. I always find driving in the rain so weird on F122. It's weirdly horrible, but not for the reason you might think. It's not that I don't like the challenge or anything, to be honest. I actually think the wet racing on F1 is actually incredibly good fun, but it's because of the lack of feel of the F122 cars, especially at the rear end, of course, now the fact they can break traction so easily. When you get it hooked up in these cars, it's great, but then you'll try and do what you think is exactly the same thing just a lap later, like through there, for example, and it just won't work, so it just kind of lulls you into a false sense of security, where one lap you'll nail something, take 3/10 out of the cars in front, you'll think, great, I can start doing that now. You know, you're learning, you're improving, and then the next lap it won't work. Speaking of learning and improving, there we go, new personal best for the day. We are just inching closer to Leclerc and Kevin, but those top three are building up a big, big gap, as that's exactly what I mean again. Last lap I was able to attack that curb. It's a bit weird, but we are slowly ticking the laps by, and I think in these conditions that's all we really can do. Ooh, there we go, new fastest lap of the day as we cross the finish line to start lap 10. We are still learning more and more about the car, and that is reassuring to know. We're still not taking bags of time out of the cars in front. I think Magnussen and I's cars are starting to come back into it a bit more. Starting to become a bit more competitive. We are just starting to gap the Mercs a little bit. It'll be nice not to have red proximity arrows all over my gearbox at every corner. It's still going to be wet a little while longer though. We'll wait and see how long that's going to be and whether cars will start to box for a fresh set. We are going to the dry period no matter what. If it means we have to do a whole Grand Prix on this set of tyres, they won't be in good shape. In fact, the rears might be destroyed, but we're going to try our best. Outside the cockpit, this race so far has probably looked quite boring, but I cannot tell you guys just how much I'm having to concentrate. Still, it's all Kevin Magnussen. Bit of a mistake down at the 90-degree right-hander. Of course, newly reprofiled for the 2022 season, as we took a lot of curb on the way in, but Charles Leclerc just in front of him as well. Sorry, just behind him still as we head through the final couple of turns. Lap 13 of 29 about to start, as now George Russell trying to apply even more pressure to myself, so maybe Merc are coming into this a bit more as the track begins to dry out just a little bit, but it's so up and down, just got no idea who's got the advantage, when and where, as George Russell there, you can see, does not have the same top end speed as myself. K-Mag and I are definitely still struggling. Well, maybe Mercedes are gearing up then for a pit stop in this race, and they've told both their cars just to go for it and see if they can try and work their way past myself, but purple through sector 2 that time round. The track is definitely getting better.
We've still got a lot of standing water out there. We're happy for you to stay out on the inters for now.
Yep, Mark absolutely spot on there. It is not time to make a switch just yet, but it is going to be getting closer and closer as here comes George Russell trying to have a look around the final corner. We'll just pinch him to the apex that time round, as that could have been quite a good lap time. It's not going to be any more, 29.9, but Merc are really trying to work a way around myself. We cannot lose the place, those big fifth gear slide at turn 1 at 120 miles an hour. This is still really scary and really tricky. Oh, there we go. Kevin Magnussen, Charles Leclerc both into the pit lane then at the end of lap 14. So we are starting to see some cars into the pits. One of the Red Bulls as well. That's Max Verstappen. So it is still our top two in the championship. 1 and 2 in the races. There we go. That's a new fastest lap of the day. That one came a bit out of nowhere, but we are just going to continue out here. We are not boxing onto another set of intermediates unless we get to about lap 25, and it's still raining. We have got to stay out. We've got to try and make this strategy work. Oh, and there we go. Sainz and Perez into the pits as well. I'm hoping George Russell behind me is going to be diving in, which he does, so we are going to inherit the lead then of the Grand Prix, but we're not going to be that far ahead of Sainz and Perez, to be honest with you. In fact, Max Verstappen might get the jump on the pair of them. Looks like Leclerc's got the jump on Kevin as well, a bit further back, so not working out well for Kevin Magnussen in all of this, but Sainz will still stay in P2 then of this Grand Prix. The Red Bulls are going to be battling heading out of the first couple of turns there as Leclerc gets the jump and stays ahead of George Russell. I think, yeah, luckily so is Kevin Magnussen. We are going to lose a bit more time over these next few laps, but really it's just about trying to hold as much of a gap as we can and praying that now the track really dries up. It's been a weird one so far. It hasn't rained a lot, but it's just been consistently falling. Charles Leclerc first man into the 128. So we could see a big train of cars behind us by the time we do inevitably box, but the track is definitely getting drier. There's not much rain still falling. Whoa, around the Albert Park circuit, that's not going to do us any favours still. Big wobble. Seek gear. That's just how torquey this Ferrari power unit is as well. The fact that it can light up its rear wheels at those sorts of speeds, but still the gap to Sainz 6 seconds behind us. We're losing close to a second a lap to the Spaniard, but we know we've got good top-end speed if he gets close to try and defend with. 10 laps to go. Tyre wear warning light has just come on, but to be honest, as the track's improving, these tyres don't feel too bad still at the moment. I don't think we're going to get to a stage where we don't box at all in this Grand Prix, although it's still not drying up a lot around Albert Park. We are losing more and more time to Sainz behind us there, but Charles Leclerc a long, long way back in at P5 as new personal best of the day, though. Goes to show we have still got some good pace in the car, but Sainz half a second quicker as that is not the line. Through turn 1, it's getting a bit nip and tuck here. The gamble is still paying off for now, but we've got to hope these tyres can hang on. Well, there is a drier line starting to form around the venue, but it is still raining here at Albert Park. I'm not convinced these tyres will make it to the end, but it might be a gamble we are going to have to take late on in the day. You can see there isn't much water at all on the circuit, but it is definitely looking ominously smooth, if you will, ominously shiny. I'm struggling to come up with words, to be honest. This is so difficult to drive and talk around a track where you need to push to the limits. The tyres are going off and the Haas car just wants to go round on you. What? Why now are you telling me this, Mark? Why didn't you tell me earlier on that it was basically going to stay wet until the end of this? Well, I mean, we are getting closer and closer to the soft compound tyres being viable, but we might just have to try and stay out right to the end then of this Australian Grand Prix there. Carlos Sainz has almost booked himself a ticket on the Mach 212 Express. They've got 7 laps to go, 70% rear tyres. No duh they are, Mark. We're going to have to try and hang on, but this is going to be really difficult. I already labelled the Dutch Grand Prix as the toughest challenge I've done on F1 22, but this is suddenly a whole lot worse. Oh, here comes Carlos Sainz down the back straight. He's got a very, very fast car underneath him, but we've just about got enough top-end speed still. We saw at Jeddah last weekend just how quick this car down a straight can be. We've really got to get our elbows out in the final few laps of this Grand Prix. We're going to fight every position like our life depends on it. I want to try and bag a win. What's the team saying? Oh, no, I don't care about the Inters. May as well stay on the ones we've got, Mark.
Understood. Copy that.
I'm not boxing unless it's onto a set of dries, and to be honest, we're getting to the point now where there'll be no point boxing onto dries either, as he could just hang out here. Sainz has got issues. That might give us a chance. Just to not really break away from him, but keep him at bay for a couple of laps longer here, unless he has a mechanical failure. That'd be exactly what Perez would want, I'm sure, in this Grand Prix. But 5 laps to go. 75% tyre wear on that rear left, and we're still sliding the car around. Can we do the impossible?
Check your MFD for a new strategy option.
That Stroll out of the Grand Prix. Team still suggesting boxing last lap for whatever reason, but we're just going to try and keep out here. Look at that, Sainz has definitely got issues. Sergio Perez now going to muscle his way to the inside. That is massive in the championship battle. Of course, Perez came into this weekend with a 3-point lead. If they'd finished P2 and P3 the way they were, they would have left Australia tied on points. Now, Perez up into P2 of this Grand Prix, and that Red Bull very, very fast as well, as that's not what we want to do with these destroyed rear tyres. 4 laps to go. Sainz is definitely dropping back, though, as we've just pulled out a little bit of time over Sergio Perez. But yeah, Sainz is hemorrhaging places late on in the Grand Prix. They're both Red Bulls now. Will have moved past him, which does not do Ferrari any favours in the Constructors' Championship either. But 3 laps to go. Oh, we've got yellow flags out. I think that might be Sainz. Carlos Sainz might be dropping to the wayside in this Grand Prix. Is it Sainz? No, I think it's Charles Leclerc. What's going on down at Ferrari? Charles Leclerc out of the Australian Grand Prix with just a couple of laps to go. That's going to promote Kevin Magnussen up into P5 there. Has no idea how he managed to hit the apex through turn 3. But Charles Leclerc out. Carlos Sainz with issues. Could K-Mag still finish P4? 2 more laps to go then here from Albert Park. And what some of you might not realise is at this point, the tyre could go at any moment. It could go under traction, it could go under braking, it could even go just down the straights. That's just how close this is late on in the day. Here comes Sergio Perez trying to have a look around the outside. Let him have a look there as Max Verstappen then is going to try and make a move on his teammate. Perez, of course, World Championship leader. How do Red Bull play this one? Looks like they're just going to let him race, and Verstappen might just have pulled it off. So Verstappen is going to get a lap and a half to try and go at me right at the end of the Australian Grand Prix. 85%. If I'd known... Steady on. If I'd known that these tyres would have to last to the end of the Grand Prix, I probably wouldn't have boxed onto them, as Verstappen trying to look around the outside, down in towards the S section. They've got both Red Bulls going for it. And again now, Perez will re-inherit P2 of this Grand Prix. No, he won't. Max Verstappen somehow hangs on around the outside through the far chicane. Now we've got a DRS failure. That's been completely irrelevant today because DRS has not been enabled once, but... yeah, I mean, Sainz still losing time. K-Mag still closing in on the Spaniard there as 1 more lap to go. We get punted from behind there. Max Verstappen runs into the back of me through the final couple of corners. Has that potentially picked up the Dutchman a little bit of front wing damage here? The tyres are all but gone on the rears. 87% there as here comes Verstappen trying to have a look up the inside down at turn 1. Whoa, there is contact between us down at the first corner there as Verstappen, I think, just tried to fire it in a bit too aggressively, and we were desperate to try and close the door. We've just got to really concentrate round the final lap here of Albert Park. It's often been a race that's delivered drama for us. Of course, Max Verstappen's mechanical failure led to our first win in my team on F1 22 and plenty of championship-defining races back on F1 2021 as well. Look at this, Verstappen all over our gearbox. He's just got so much extra grip at the moment. The tyre is just... I don't know how it hasn't gone yet. It feels like it's going, though. More and more wobbles as we try and head down the back straightaway here. We're going to have to go defensive. It's a 5-car battle for the win here at Albert Park. But can we just about hang on in towards the chicane for the final time? If we get a puncture, it is game over. But somehow these Pirelli tyres are hanging on for the moment. We've got enough top-end speed to try and keep Verstappen at bay, unless he can try and send it somewhere down through the final couple of corners here. Just take it clean and tidy. Don't do anything stupid. Don't take any risks, Matt. Through the final couple of corners. Just make this Haas car as wide as possible through the final couple of turns of the Australian Grand Prix. It's not going to be over until we make it round to the checkered flag there. Out of the final corner. Get on the throttle. 90% tyre wear. But we're going to do it.
Another fantastic victory for Haas today. So Natalie, what do you think helped them deliver this result?
Rain always has the potential to liven up a race and mix up the order, and they've taken full advantage of that to claim the victory today. It's a bit of a lottery when the conditions are like this, but they've managed to stay on the circuit and have come out on top.
There aren't many teams, as they come out onto the podium now, who could do what Haas have managed to accomplish here. It's hard to believe how competitive they've already become. Amazing victory. And now let's take a look at the driver's standings. A result that will make Sergio Perez happy as he pushes his championship lead out even further. So then, Natalie Pinkham, who would you rank as your driver of the day?
I have to give it to Mr. Monaco. That was a commanding performance today. Very impressive indeed.
It's time to see how things are shaping up in the Constructors' Championship. And pulling further ahead in the standings, it's Red Bull. There was also a strong showing from the McLaren team today as they make their way up the standings. Well, that was certainly an exciting weekend of Formula One. Be sure to join us for more exciting Formula One action very soon.
Well, there we are then, the end of a very dramatic Australian Grand Prix that I didn't even realise Hamilton was only a second away by the time we got to the checkered flag there. 6 cars separated by 1.4 seconds in a modern Formula 1 race is absolutely incredible there. But somehow we make the no-stop work. You don't see that very often on F1 22. Just 8 hundredths ahead of Max Verstappen come the checkered flag there. Perez P3 ahead of Sainz and Kevin Magnussen. Hamilton, George Russell, Lando Norris and George Russell there, with Albon and Ocon rounding out the top 10 for Alpine there. What a crazy race weekend that was. Just Leclerc and Stroll that didn't make it to the checkered flag means championship-wise, Perez now with a 6-point lead at the top of the table, 9 points ahead of his teammate Max Verstappen. We're up into P4 there, just 12 points off the top, but Kevin Magnussen now tied with 7-time Formula 1 World Champion Lewis Hamilton in P6 overall. They're now ahead of George Russell. Ricciardo jumps Bottas on countback. Latifi jumps Stroll on countback as well. Constructors-wise, though, we make good inroads on Ferrari as well. There is Red Bull open up a 23-point lead at the top of the table. McLaren re-jump Alpine in the battle for P6, but I really do feel like AlphaTauri, Alfa Romeo, Aston Martin and Williams are going to struggle to score points this year. Thank you all so much for watching this video, though. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure you leave a like, get yourself subscribed as well, and we will return very, very soon with more F1 22 content. None of these videos would be possible without the help of our channel members, so a massive thank you to all of the names you see on your screens currently for helping support the channel. You can join them by clicking the join button down below, and yeah, thank you once again to everyone that continues all the insane support on my work.